This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSPORT Fan Network. TalkSPORT. Powered by fans.
Hello and welcome to this issue of Red Side of the Trent as we come to you shortly after Nottingham Forest managed to find their way through to the fifth round of the FA Cup, although it wasn't entirely comfortable as they drew 2-2 with League One Exeter City down at St James Park in Devon, but prevailed on penalties in pretty emphatic fashion, all things considered. I'm your host Christian Brown and I'm joined by Reiss and Lee Clark. No Adam Whitlow today. How are you both, chaps?
Yes, good yourself, mate.
Good, very well, yeah.
Yeah, all good, all good.
Mm-hmm. So Reiss, you are a man on the ground there, so fair play to making the pretty lengthy trek down to, I think it was only about 1,200 away from something like that, so it's a pretty, It was like a throwback to days gone by, wasn't it? Yeah.
To be fair, the away stand was very non-league level, if I'm going to be honest. Literally steps, a few kind of porter cabins as toilets, and like a metal sheet roof, so a proper throwback. And obviously those who go like non-league and that would have
What side were you in? Were you in the left or the right hand side? Because I didn't realise it was split in half the way end until actually I saw it.
Yeah, so I was in the right, which was like the bigger bit. So I was right behind the goal on the back row. I've actually had a look through some of the photos, and unfortunately, the only one I can see himself on is when Tyro's on the floor getting treatment. But it's a proper little old school football ground. Into I really enjoyed the terrace behind the goal as a football purist. I mean, proper kind of end. That was so. Another ground to tick off the 92.
Absolutely, yeah. Leos, we'll start with you. So, as expected, we rotate the pack pretty well. It was sort of a 4-2-3-1/4-3-3, depending on where you looked at it. So obviously Miguel came in goal for Sales. Toffolo played centre back with Bolly, with Murray and Moreno as fullbacks. Sangare came into midfield with Danilo and Yates, and obviously Sousa and Jota were either side of Taiwo. Was there any real shock for you there, or were you? I know obviously the concept of Toffolo playing centre back raised a few eyebrows, but what did you make of the team as a whole?
Yeah, I was a bit concerned with the defensive side of things a little bit. I think we said in our group, didn't we? I think it probably highlights that Morato has all of a sudden become pretty important. I think he's going to play three at the back in the Premier League for the foreseeable. The fact he didn't get on at all just reiterates that, I think, as well. I was a little bit sceptical about seeing Toffolo play centre-back. But bizarrely, when you're sceptical about things, I thought Toffolo was probably one of our better players on the night. So it's one of those things. I think it's strange because with these FA Cup situations, you're always damned if you do and damned if you don't. Because if we played the full side, we have absolutely nothing to gain other than potentially getting a top player injured. And everyone says, well, you should win anyway because you're playing a League One side. And then you make 10, 11 changes. If we'd have gone out, everyone would have said, bloody hell, we could have won the Cup this year. Why did he make that many changes? So he wouldn't have been able to win regardless. But I must admit, I did think after seeing pretty much the same team come through against Luton, I still wasn't really concerned that we would get beat. I thought it'd still be tough because these games are, as we saw Liverpool at Plymouth on Sunday, these games are typically tough. But yeah, it was perhaps I was maybe a little bit surprised that the defensive side of things was a little bit all over the place for me.
Yeah, it was a little bit strange. Although, to be fair to Toffolo, he did pretty, like you said, did all right. All considered, it was out of position as such. But we'll come on to player performances in more depth a bit later on. But Reiss, obviously, it wasn't the best of starts. It was if all the things that you can imagine Dino would have said before kickoff, with it being they're at home, it's under the lights sort of thing. As Jamie touched upon in our preview, of course. Don't give them anything. Definitely don't give them any little gifts. And I can count out 3 or 4 that we gave them before the ball actually hit the back of the net as Exeter took the lead through Josh McGuinness. Talk me through the goal and what your sort of take on it all was.
Yeah, well, you always expected them to start fast because it was a historic night for them. And that's I'm not being disrespectful for them. This is probably one of the biggest nights in their history. Let's be honest about it. Obviously, the crowd was up for it. It was a sellout. There was plenty of flags, plenty of tifos, plenty of banners. So, I'm sure Nuno's words would have been, just keep the ball, pass it, take the sting out of the game early on. Don't give them anything. Set pieces against these type of sides in lower leagues are always going to be valuable for them. And we'll build into the game. So, no, it wasn't a good start at all. I mean, the corner, Moreira wins the ball, and then their left back, I think it was Harper, he gets the ball off him a bit too easy. And then there's a ball into the box where Miguel just doesn't shout loud enough. And he says he's sharp, but you could hear the players, and he just didn't sharp Bolly enough. And Bolly's then skewed it behind. It nearly could have been an own goal, really. And then from the resulting corner, they've obviously recycled it, and it's a howler for Miguel. And you can't beat around the bush. It's meat and drink for any goalkeeper, that, especially one as tall as Miguel is. Their keeper, Whitworth, I think he was only about 5'10". I'd imagine he'd be catching that or at least tipping it over the bar if he's unsure, because it was like a shot come cross, wasn't it? And it literally falls to McGuinness, and he just couldn't miss, could he? I think us 3 would have stuck that one in the net, wouldn't we? So, not the ideal start, I must say.
Definitely. I felt as well that, we could have maybe done more to stop the cross coming in from that side too. But obviously, it's always easy to say after the fact, isn't it? But the good news is, Lee, that we did actually rally and respond very well. We did, we stamped to our authority, really, you could say, and equalised not long after through Ramon Sousa, who's got his second goal in the FA Cup this season. But it was some pass from Sangare, wasn't it, to put him through on goal?
Yeah, it was like we said about the Danilo pass in the Brighton game. I think, that pass from Sangare we don't typically see from too many other of our central midfielders. The one thing I've said to someone else on social media today, actually, the one thing that I do like about Sangare is one sort of criticism he gets a lot is that he loses the ball a lot. But people need to start realising that he loses the ball a lot because he's often trying to play it forwards. At least I'd rather a midfielder lose the ball a few times, but he's trying to progress the ball. Let's face it, if you're passing it to the bloke next to you, we go back to the Sammy Clingan days, never used to lose the ball. He never passed it forwards. So it's all got to be contextualised when you talk about these passes and players losing possession. It was a great ball. It looked a little bit unorthodox, I'll be honest. I don't know if he was trying to get it out of one of the divots that was in the pitch. But yeah, it was such it was pinpoint, wasn't it? It was literally perfect. And it was one of those weird sort of goals where I thought that as much as it had gone to Sosa, I wasn't sure he could get it out of his feet to get a shot away. And thankfully he did. To be fair, it probably a goalkeeper. Not to the extent of Miguel's was, but it was probably a goalkeeper error again, wasn't it, really? Let's face it. I think he'll be disappointed with that. Especially so soon after. You just think when they go in front, you kind of, from their perspective, you're just thinking, right, 20 minutes now, just keep it nice and tight. They'll get frustrated and we might be able to hit them again on the counter. And, what was it? 10 minutes before we equalised, was it? Something like that. And we're back in the game. And then all of a sudden the stadium goes a little bit flat. And yeah, it was a nice goal. And Sosa keeps chipping in with these ones, doesn't he? So at least he is kind of, I wouldn't say he's banging the door down to get a place, to get a start in the team in the Premier League. But when he does get the chances, at least he is showing flashes of promise that he perhaps should be getting a bit more game time.
Definitely, yeah. As a little spoiler alert, Sosa isn't one of our players we'll be performing reviewing later. But I actually felt, apart from that one pass that he didn't put through to Gibbs White in, I think, extra time or whatever it was, he actually had a pretty decent night. I thought he offers something very different to Hudson-Odoi, that he sort of likes to run in behind a bit more than Hudson-Odoi does, as we saw with the goal. And, I think Ian Wright touched upon it at half-time, said that the ex-defenders probably weren't expecting someone to do that. They come across quality players like that who will target you in that sense. So more touch tight and sort of hope for a spin or something else. But yeah, I thought he had a good. His delivery yesterday was really good as well, especially for the Woods header from the corner. It was again decent night for him, which can't be said for other wingers in the team, but we'll come on to that in due course.
No, it's funny actually, because I was just going to say that. I think what I would say is it's interesting because I think for weeks, I think we've said it as well, that Sosa's probably the one that seems a little bit, who's taking more time to adapt to this country and the sort of football. But I think what Sosa does bring you is he brings you that more conventional skill set of a winger. Whereas I find I still don't really get the fascination with J Silva and what he offers us. Whereas Sosa, you always know roughly what sort of areas he's going to get into, and he's like that typical inside forward where he's a winger, but he likes to be more central when we've got the ball, sort of thing. So, yeah, I thought it was. I agree. I thought it was a good performance from him, to be fair.
And obviously, Reiss after that goal, again, things went from good to better as another line-breaking ball from Sangare finds Taiwo, who sort of holds off a few players and then rattles one in bottom corner with his weaker foot. I mean, for someone that obviously Adam's convinced he can't strike a ball properly, I think he hit that one pretty well, didn't he?
Yeah. I mean, it was important that we got a goal pretty quickly, I thought, which we obviously did. And then it, like Lee said, it kind of, the crowd was a little bit subdued then because of, they've had with respect again to Exeter, because I've got no disrespect towards them after last night. They've had their moment and now the big boys are here, you know what I mean? So, yeah, this is obviously, I know it's against League One Exeter, but when Sangare played for PSV, I'd imagine most teams he played for against PSV, apart from probably Ajax and Feyenoord, I'd say, most teams would probably be sat behind the ball and he'd be that number 6 where he gets on the ball, he threads the ball through the lines, you know, he obviously tries and turns it over back into our favourite possession. And they let him do that first half. And there was clip balls over the top on every single time, weren't they? And they really struggled with that. And yeah, he obviously gets it into Tyro's feet. You know, like you said, Christian Tyro holds off him, and it's a nice finish, isn't it? I thought, obviously, until he got, pretty much KO'd, I think. I thought Tyro actually played quite well last night. So, I mean, at that stage and then going into half-time, you're 2-1 up. You know, you turn the game around and you're just thinking, come out second half with the right attitude, get that third goal. And it would have been, again, we'd have probably got maybe 4 or 5 then. But yeah, you know, second half, we just disappointing. So to get us back into such a good position to then let it slip again was disappointing. But yeah, nice goal, that one, the second.
Definitely, yeah. I think, Lee, it was just very, very disappointing. I mean, I think the thing that annoyed me the most, wasn't even Exeter getting back into the game, it was more the manner of it. I think because we'll talk about the goal now in due course and obviously give our thoughts on that. But it was more, it just seemed straight from kickoff. They just wanted it more than we did second half. And we had an air of complacency about us. We walked out, I thought there was a sort of a feel of job's done here. We'll be all right. And you know, we all know how important the FA Cup is to teams and how special it is. You can't have that mindset with only a slender lead away from home with a whole half to play. So, but what are your thoughts on that? First and foremost, before we just set the goal.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Ian Wright was spot on when he said at half-time, I think he was asked the question, how do you see Exeter getting back into the game? And he said set pieces. I think that's a really interesting point because as much as we've made great strides in terms of set pieces, the players that we've made great strides with defending set pieces weren't playing last night. So it's a completely different... You've essentially got the same group of players who were in the squad last year, certainly at centre-back, you know, and being asked to kind of defend them properly. And I think they got a bit fortunate with how it ended up in the net, I'll be honest with you. But yeah, it was a bit of a shambles, wasn't it? It was all over the place. There was no... I think we discovered last night what Milenkovic actually brings, and it's nothing to do with him being able to kick or head a football. It's all to do with getting it 10 other players knowing exactly what they're doing when that ball comes into the box. And it came into the box. And it was just, it was pandemonium, wasn't it? It was like the sort of bloody coming together you see on a a non-league game, weren't it? No disrespect to non-league, but kind of like things just attack v defence, everything going off everywhere, and it just ended up in the net. So yeah, it was just a bit. I actually thought at that point, then I don't know. I just sensed that they might be the side that looked most like winning it, and it probably did pan out like that. To be honest, with the really good chance they had at the end. But yeah, it wasn't a great goal to concede from our point of view, was it?
I think I've seen quite a few fans go for Miguel on this one. I will actually throw him a bit of slack. I actually think the issue is more with the defenders, because you can see there's a man on him and no one's getting him away. That always annoys me from a corner. It doesn't matter what level you played at. I do on a Sunday. I stand on the goalkeeper's toes, and within seconds, someone's there pushing me away. There's not much to push, to be fair, but it always happens just because there is that risk that if you get in the keeper's way or stop him from getting anywhere, chances are you're going to score a goal if any of your players make contact on it. And to be fair to Miguel, he actually does on his own just shove this guy out of the way, his marker, makes the save, and then he's just horrendously, obviously he puts it into an area, he can't really do much about that. He puts it into an area where there's bodies everywhere. I don't know what Body's doing. I really don't know what Body's trying to do there. If anything, his foot's pointing towards his own goal. It's not he's trying to clear the ball at all. But yeah, just an absolute mess. And makes you want, yeah.
Bizarrely, I actually thought, because obviously we said in our group chat, didn't we, about the lack of a player getting the attacker off the keeper. What I thought was really interesting was it was almost like that was part of the game plan, because when Sells came on, still no one got the attacker off the keeper. So it couldn't have been a Miguel thing, because the same thing was happening. And whether there was one where the ball had actually been kicked and Sells just gave him a right shove, so he could come for the ball. And I'm thinking, bloody hell, how this ref's been. I'm surprised he's not given a pen or something there. But yeah, I just found it quite interesting, because I thought when they first got a corner and Sells was on, I thought, oh, did that not happen this time? But it did. He didn't kind of say to someone, come and get this guy. But yeah, it was just a bit weird. I hope that's not the game plan, because like you've just said, Christian, at any level of football, it seems to be that you get the defender to come over and take him away from the keeper, I suppose.
They kept overloading that back post, didn't they? There was probably about 4 people. And obviously you've got, Moreira, who's at that back stick, who's a young lad still. And, you've got experience cloggers, aren't you, like Josh McGuinness, who's been around the block, obviously Northern Ireland International, etc. But he knows his way around the lower leagues. You're going to get drop downs, etc. And that's how they've scored. And there was a period where I think they got 3 or 4 corners in quick succession. And your heart was literally in your mouth, because you're thinking, oh my God, we're going to concede from one of these. And we actually thankfully didn't. But yeah, for the first time in, I think, this season, your heart was in your mouth from set pieces. But Lee's at his spot bang on the head, anti, because, as 2 centre-backs aren't there, Milenkovic, who's bossing everybody about, making sure everyone's there, and Murillo, who usually stands on that 6-yard box until he flies out to head it away. And we just, it was a bit like statues in the area last night. And to say, like, I always praise Willy Bolly, saying he's a 7 out of 10 every week. He was like that when we first signed him last night, which was so rusty, wasn't he? But him amongst probably, I'd say, half a dozen last night, really disappointing on the night.
Yeah, it wasn't a great showing for many people. But that's the rest of the half went. I mean, not long after that, Miguel went off injured. Sells came on, has to make a save. Obviously, Gibbs White and Anderson came on. Moreno was putting a Dan Harding special second half, and they had a chance to flash past the posts. They had a player sent off for a horrible challenge on Gibbs White, which he's probably going to wake up with stud marks down his thigh this morning. And then, Tyro got injured after going for a header. Jota hit the post with some chaos, at the last minute. And but apart from one Wood chance extra time, not a lot really happened for both teams. Reiss, I mean, obviously, you made the trip down. Just how frustrated were you watching this? Like, because it was honestly like watching. I think I saw a sarcastic Forest tweet. It was like, if anyone who forgot what it was like supporting Forest before the 21-22 season, this is a perfect reminder. And it's just, oh God, yeah. Talk me through your thoughts.
Just frustrating. I mean, because they had some momentum before that red card, and that red card actually took it out of them a little bit. I mean, thankfully, he didn't catch him with his studs. It was more side of his foot. But I mean, he was so high that in this day and age, the referee, I think, is going to make. I mean, Lee said that the assistant got in his ear, didn't you, Lee, and said that he actually, I think, changed his mind.
Watching on the TV, there's no way that the ref had seen that as a red, because the first footage they showed of the ref when the tackle went in, he had his hand in his side pocket, and obviously then he walked as though he was going to walk towards the line, and then they're showing the replay, and I think it was Seb Hutchinson commentating, wasn't it? And he turned around and said, "Oh, it's a red card." And I'm thinking, well, he was going to go yellow, so there's no way that he's seen it and he couldn't have seen it anyway because it was on the counter, weren't it? So he wouldn't have seen the angle that the assistant
had. And it wasn't like an instant decision as well. He actually took his time. I mean, because from the away end, you didn't have a massive view apart from it looked high and it was obviously at speeds. And when he took his time, I thought he was just going to yellow card him. So it was a bit of a surprise in the ground that the red did come out. I mean, back when us guys were growing up, that would have probably been a strong yellow, isn't it? But nowadays, you're going at that high and at that speed and you're running the risk. So, but I mean, they had that great chance, didn't you, when Moreno got spun? I just watched the highlights before I'd done some notes off. I mean, Jesus, McGuinness was not far away from getting on the end of that. Obviously, thankfully, Tyra's okay. He can walk in across the away end. I mean, I think he was pretty much knocked out, to be honest. I've seen some of the, comments on Facebook. He's only got a broken nose, where he's literally KO'd on the floor, and they thought he probably had a neck injury, so they're not going to move him, are they? And then talking about the good old days, but yeah, that's gone down well, haven't we? When we see the head problems in football at the minute, but yeah, and then obviously it comes to that Jota chance. I mean, he did brilliantly well to win it back. I mean, it was a lapse in concentration from them. But he just hit it so hard. He didn't need to. He just needed to pick a spot. And I've never heard a post noise so loud when it hit it. But the connection was clean as a whistle. But I was like, why has he hit it so hard? And that just typified him yesterday of just, instead of having some composure, just picking your spot against, a keeper who's quite small as well. And then you're just thinking, we're playing 30 minutes against another 30 minutes, and then we've had to bring Gibbs White on, we've had to bring Anderson on, we've had to bring Wood on. And then you're thinking, God, we're playing another 30 minutes on what wasn't the best pitch, a lot of divots. They watered it heavily before the game, so it was a bit boggy. And then you're just thinking, surely we've got enough here to turn these over and it not go to penalties. And I don't know. I just thought we rushed things. There was little moments where we was keeping the ball and pulling them from side to side, and you just got to pick your moment. And then we'd rush something, or we'd just hook it aimlessly into the box. And to be honest, when it went to penalties, and then obviously it was at their end, I thought it was like as if it was written they was going to win. But yeah, thankfully, we did do it in the end, and you can't grumble at the penalties because they were all excellent. I mean, the keeper helped them because he died literally, I think, a second before each one, but they were all great penalties, and thankfully we've got ourselves through. And, it's a good opportunity now at home against a side who I think Ipswich are still in the relegation zone, aren't they, to get through to the quarterfinals. And then you're one game away from Wembley, as much as I don't agree with it, but that's where we are.
It was it's just it seemed to me that the script was set. In that little recap, I completely forgot to mention that the linesman just gave them a corner because two of their players asked one. He had absolutely no idea what to do. It was just, Jesus. But no, it seemed
the ref was just so stop-start. Any little contact on their players, he was stopping the game. There was so many times when he could have played advantage for us and he stopped it. And it was just so scrap. But that's playing into their hands. They wanted it. At the start of extra time, they would have snapped your arm off for penalties. And to be fair, they deserved to get to penalties, in my opinion, because we didn't do enough to beat them. And then obviously it's who's better on the night at the penalties, and we were thankfully far superior.
Yeah, I found it nuts. I'm just looking at the stats now. So there were 33,000 in the game yesterday. 23 of those are apparently attributed to us. I reckon at least 15 of those was that number 30, who literally just went down to the wind to touch his face, let alone anything else.
Did we have any yellow cards last night? I don't think we did we?
I don't think we did, actually. I can let you know for certain in a second. They had 2, 3. Okay. No. Oh, yeah. Williams got booked. Williams got, but that was a late.
So that's what I mean. Like there was just niggly little fouls, and then it was just I just pulling my hair out at the game because it was a throwback, wasn't it, to what we've been used to in the past, and we've obviously come such a long way, and it wasn't so long ago since we were Exeter and we was rocking up to Stamford Bridge and that in the Championship and hoping we'd niggle a result, but such is life now. But yeah, just relief, I think, to get it over the line in the end, but hopefully not at a cost for Saturday, although we'll see.
Yeah, that is obviously the next issue, but yeah, you're right. I mean, the Pens themselves, like I said, I thought going into it was nailed on. Jota would miss the deciding penalty, and that number 30 would score, and I don't know, pitch invasion a lot, but it wasn't to be. I mean, they were very cool, calm, and collected. Kendrick Lamar fans might enjoy a little pun in the title because it was a very art of Pens pressure. I mean, you can all feel free to jump on this. I think my favourite one was Wood's penalty because the keeper, he hit it so hard that the keeper had dived after the ball had hit the back of the net. It was like something you'd see at like part level. No, all the Pens were great, I thought, to be fair. The Gibbs White one as well was very good. Williams knowing how to do it, hit it very well. Yeah, I think they just got the job done. Obviously, they looked at the technique and that sort of thing after the game, and you can argue that obviously Premier League players are maybe more used to being in high pressure situations than League One players, but we still have to score the penalties anyway. And thankfully they did. And yeah, as you touched upon, Reiss Forest's next step in the FA Cup will be at home to Ipswich Town. So really, I mean, you've had quite a run here. All you want in the Cup really is a tie at home you feel that you can progress from to avoid Elliot's favourite term, or an away game to a ground you've not been to. So that's we were pretty on course for that. But yeah, we're going to now have a little look at your slept on it thoughts once I find the little buzzer for it there.
Red side of the Trent. Slept on it thoughts.
Leave any slept on it thoughts. He chose not to, which is fair enough. But Bennett says, can we blame jet lag for a number of awful performances, especially Joss and Moreno? Miguel iffy too, and Toffolo isn't the centre back. Hopefully Big T is not out for any length of time. That's the most important thing. Thomas Newton says, had everything but a boring watch. They say the cup can be a great leveller. A typical easy way, hard way, and the Forest way. Lee, you should start taking like royalties from that. We were cruising at half time, but never got going. Glad Ty was okay. Glad we got through, but wasn't a great watch. Danny Tring said, through to the next round. The biggest positive. Gutted for Taiwo, hopefully back fairly quickly. Sangare, best player by far. If I don't see Yates and Jota again this season, I'll be a happy man. Busy summer ahead if we do get Europe onto Fulham. Premier Elliott, yeah, that happens. But can we take a moment to appreciate the return of Sangare and spraying some lovely forward passes, especially for the goals? Today's fact is that Finland farmers have been spraying deer's antlers with reflective paint to prevent road accidents. I suppose I can see why that would be quite useful, yeah. LFFC Bod said a lot of Forest fans are behaving like that's the first FA Cup game we've ever seen. Make 10 changes against a side who have enough desire for two sides. The game was a scrappy affair. Even though they went down at 10 men, it still needs to be one of penalties. The magic of the cup. Capanosity and Function said much about nothing in the end. Will Exeter be our 2025 Tooting and Mitcham? Asking grandparents. A good omen for 2 days out at Wembley. Sangare was the best player in League One in the first half. Reece Coy said to be expected in the FA Cup. Some bad performances tonight, but a cup game on a bobbly pitch on a Tuesday night in Devon doesn't make or break them. The overstating of the obvious that we need improvements if we do get into Europe is starting to get boring. A win to win, we move on. Bugman said, my thoughts for what it's worth. Russ performance on a poor pitch. Exeter credit themselves in League One. We weren't at it. It's not as bad as the performance was. Hopes he is okay. Grant Fellows said, hats off to Exeter. They made it a scrap and we got drawn into it. Key Pereira made it harder than it needed to be. Suspect the Ipswich game will be more first-team players in the last 2 rounds. Andy H says, poor performance. Yes, but the ref gave him everything, even after the red card. Any challenge was next to free kick. Joe Whitworth, proper S-house keeper. We didn't deserve to win. They didn't deserve to lose. It's the cup. Carl Booth, again, the easy way, the hard way, the Forest way. And Johnny Antcliffe, last but not least, just put leave Jota and Devon. So thank you all for your slept on it thoughts. Much appreciated as always. And obviously thanks to people in the chat who have popped up too. So I guess what we'll do for player performances, I've gone 2 good, 2 bad, like match day 2. Just minus the funny clips of people. Lee, I'm going to start with you with Sangare, just because I thought he was the best player on the pitch by a mile yesterday. And I just think that I find the discourse for it all so strange. I know we've spoken about this at 8 times before in the pods, and obviously in general, but I think the best way to describe it is that there's lots of people, just to credit someone in the Athletic comment section, I can't remember, I'll dig out the name in a second, who said there's lots of people who have been praising Taiwo for looking sharp and looking good and looking back to his best. And they're saying, yeah, that's great. But in the same breath, they're saying that we can't praise Sangare because he's only against a League One team. He costs £30 million and this, that, and the other, which is absolutely nonsensical. But how did you think he played yesterday? And would you include him for Saturday against Fulham on that showing?
Well, I'll address that second bit in a moment while I think about it. Yeah, nail on the head with the first stuff. I mean, some of the comments I've seen about, you can't give him praise because we're playing Exeter. Well, we may as well not bother with these podcasts and after games against Exeter. We may as well just not bother, sack it off, because, like I said at the start, damned if we do and damned if we don't. We may as well just not bother, call it, we're the Premier League side, we'll sack it off. We're not analyse anything. We're not analyse anything in this case because it means giving the hated one some praise in the eyes of some. And he was the best player on the pitch. It was a drab game and it was a really poor game of football, whether it was, if that's a League One game or a Premier League game, it's a drab game of football if it pans out like that. But that doesn't mean you can't pick the bones out of it. And if you're picking a best player, it probably was Sangare. That doesn't mean that I all of a sudden think he's justified that £30 million price tag and he's the best defensive midfielder in the world that was once courted by Liverpool, PSG and Bayern. But it's credit where it's due. And why should he not get that with what he's been through? Tough injury. He's just got back into the team at the start of the season. He gets another one. Just give the bloke a break, for God's sake. I mean, it's like I've said before, there's certain things that certain players will do. And, oh my God, get him in the England team. Get him called up for his country. Sangare does it, and it's, but he costs 30 million and we're only playing Exeter. So I find it all a bit nauseating with all of our the whole discussion around the midfield stuff now. And there were people saying, but you're the same with other players. I probably am guilty of that, but I don't recall too many times where I've had to throw Sangare in the mix because other players have played well. I just don't see that in the analysis we give on the podcast personally. But yeah, he was the absolute best player on the pitch. His assists were brilliant. Again, if Harry Toffolo gets those assists, it's get him in the team on Saturday. You know what I mean? There's certain players who are loved in the eyes of supporters, and for some reason, Sangare, I know he cost 30 million, but you've got to give credit where it's due. Yeah, it was Exeter. Yeah, it was an FA Cup game against a team, 40 odd places below us, whatever it was. But give the bloke some credit. He played well, but it's the start. Going on to your second point, should he play against Fulham based on that? Probably not. The reason being, our last Premier League game, we won 7-0. There were certain players who were rested last night who didn't get a kick. The shape's going to change. That probably means a midfielder coming out, I guess. So, yeah, I think he won't play on Saturday, I wouldn't have thought, but it's a good start. It's minutes in the legs for him, and it's an indication of what he can bring. Yeah, like I say, we're playing Exeter, but those passes, and I do get the notion a little bit that he won't get that time and space in Premier League games. But with how we play on the counter, there might be some times in Premier League games where he has got that bit of space in the middle of the park. So I don't buy this, he's not going to get that in the Premier League. He needs to do that in the Premier League 10 times before I can give him any praise. I don't get that. I think he made 2 really good passes to set up goals, and some people are just dismissing that. And I don't particularly like that. I think that's pretty poor form from those that are doing that. So yeah, I thought it was good. It was progress. Great to see him start. But will he play on Saturday? Probably not. I think I'd like to see I'm trying to think. We played Danilo, didn't we, against Brighton? So, like I say, I think it might be the same 11, to be honest. Danilo in there. Who else played? Anderson, didn't he? Danilo and Anderson is a good sort of combination of two players. So yeah, I don't see any reason having won 7-0 in last time out in the Premier League to veer away from that. But what an option it is from the bench. Is it an upgrade on having Ward-Prowse on the bench? Definitely. So yeah.
Can I just have a touch on Sangare as well? I've got a feeling we'll actually play 5 at the back on Saturday, and I actually think he'll probably play Morgan and Elliot Anderson as centre mids and play the 3, which I think we did at Brentford, wasn't it? But we'll see. I mean, to me, you saw I know it's Exeter, but I saw last night why we brought him, because, like I said earlier, at PSV would have been playing against sides. A lot of teams, you sit in a low block. We, at the time, brought him as this number 6 under a different regime. He was in a midfield 3, so he'd be the sitter. You'd have 2 energetic midfielders at the side of him. I think we had, obviously, Dominguez being one, king of the press, they say, from Italy, and Mangala could get about pretty decently, or Yates in there, for example. And then, obviously, we've kind of drifted away from that because we've changed manager and we've gone to a 2. But you can see, like, in a 3, and as that number 6, what we wanted as a 3, why we brought him. The problem is, for me, which is not a problem, is in a 2 in the Premier League, I'm just not, and time will tell, I'm just not sure on his agility. I mean, the passing and that's superb. You've seen that last night, and like Lee hit it bang on the head earlier. I don't mind a player giving it away if they're trying to pick a lock. That is going to happen at any level of football. You're going to try and thread it through the eye of a needle. There is times when it's going to get cut out. You know, we see it with Gibbs White all the time, trying to get that one pass. So, you look, we'll see with Sangare. You know, he's just got to cut the niggly fouls, I think, out of the game. I looked at the fouls last night. It was the highest with 4, which against a League One team's not ideal, is it? I know the referee was giving everything, but you know, but we'll see. I'm not getting in. You know, I try and not really finger with social media too much, but this Forest civil war and centre mid, like I've said previously, just get behind them all. They'll all have a use before the end of the season. We're in a brilliant position, still in the FA Cup. We're 3rd in the Premier League, and you know, we're reassessing the summer. But they'll all have the worth before the end of the season. But yeah, it was good to see him play well last night. Yeah, his passing was really good.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, it's just touching upon what Lee said. I mean, obviously with the agility side of things, I suppose, and it's more the fouls that gets me, because he is more often not very late in the tackle, but which for number 6 is a little concerning. But the agility side of it, I'm not too fussed about that. I mean, I know obviously it's very small sample size, but again, we went to Newcastle with 2 midfield, and he ran the whole show. He had Joe Linton and Bruno Guimaraes trying to kick him. He was just shoving him aside, and so, you know, he can do it. We've seen his passing with West Ham away last year, where he was influential in both our goals, just from passing from deep and cutting the line. So, you know, that side of things, I just think from a counter-attacking perspective, very counter-attacking team, if we've got someone else other than Gibbs White who can pick out those balls from deep and get the ball to Alanga and Hudson-Odoi quicker while they're still out of shape for them to exploit, that can only be a big thing for Forest. But touching on what Lee said, I can't help but think that, and this is the very big cynic in me, that one of the reasons why all these comments have come out the woodwork per se is because another midfielder was hooked for the 2nd game running and played poorly for the 2nd game running. He started him, and they're deflecting. That's just the way that's just a possible theory from me. But yeah.
Well, my final point on Sangare was going to be as well, if you know, I was being a bit pedantic by saying let's not analyse it, let's not do podcasts after it and all that sort of stuff. But if we can't give him any credit, why wasn't it? Because it was only Exeter. Why wasn't everyone at 8 out of 10 last night?
Well, exactly, yeah.
Why wasn't everyone an 8 out of 10? There were certain players who dropped 2 out of 10s last night. And no, I don't mean Ryan Yates. He was better than that. So before people come at me in the comments with that's what I'm getting at, I'm not. Both fullbacks were probably 2 out of 10, 3 out of 10 at best. They were both very, very poor. Bolly wasn't much better, as we've just said. No. So why? Because it's only Exeter, it's almost like everyone should have been 8 out of 10 then. So I just don't get the whole. I just think, like Reiss has said before, and he's dead right. I just think that the stone's been set now with Sangare. With some people, whatever he does, he'll get a hat trick, and it'll be but such and such would have scored 4. It's that's what now.
I think this is social media, I try and ignore it, and I just do this podcast from, my own opinion and that really.
What I would say though
gets
is
said
that
on
I'm
social
not
media.
just drawing that from social media either. I talk to all the Forest fans who are perhaps not quite as close as the lads I go to the games with and stuff, and they're the same. Oh, he's crap him, isn't he? He's rubbish. You don't do much, and he's not as good as other players, and I don't think he's going to fit here. He's not going to fit because he costs 30 million, and nobody can get that bit out of their head. It's just how it goes, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I mean, it's not his fault. We had the same. I'm not going to mention the name of another player in the Championship, but the price tag does hang over players' head. The media use it all the time. Jack Grealish, £100 million player, Makayo Mudryk, £80 million, Anthony, £80 million. It's always used in the media, and whether it's right or wrong, it's unfortunately something what people do hold over footballers when they cost a lot of money.
And you find it hypocritical. It's a little bit hypocritical, really. Because if you think about it, I mean, obviously Williams has come on leaps and bounds now to the point he's very clearly our best left fullback. But he was borderline. He was 500 grand off a club record signing for a good fair portion of the season when he first started, and he was playing like a Championship player. But there was none of this victual for him then. Well, that was from us, but from the wider fan base, it's just like, oh, that's okay. Is that because he was Brennan's mate? I just find the whole selectiveness really, really bizarre and strange. But anyway,
I just think, just the last point, and I just think as a fan base, this is what I've come to, because you'd argue to the cars coming, but you just got to accept some people rate certain players, some people don't, and people like certain attributes in a player. Some people like other attributes. It's like a boxing judge. They look for different things when they're judging a fight. That's how I see it as a football fan. You've all got a preference, and I'm just, wow. I just don't get it because we're third in the league and we're like this Forest centre mid civil war.
I think, do you know another thing that I don't think helps Sangare, and this is going to sound mental, but football's changed, the game's changed, like we've touched on, it is on social media. And I think a lot of people's favourite players are very active on social media, aren't they? Sangare's not into that. He don't really go on, does he? He'll put the odd bits and pieces on, but I don't know. I just don't. He's not someone that fans can feel like they relate to all the time, is he? I guess when they see their favourites on social media and they're putting everything on, they kind of feel a bit closer to them, don't they? Whereas Sangare perhaps would be wise to get someone doing his socials for him, perhaps.
Well, I mean, such is life nowadays. I mean, I defended him a lot on social media last season because I thought some of the comments from fans and everyone's got right opinion were a bit harsh. It was like he's got malaria and it was kind of held against him. And then, this notion, he never smiles or anything. But yeah, let's move on to another player, please.
Yeah.
I will, yeah. But very, very good performance. Very pleasing to see. But someone else I thought played well recently, obviously you touched upon this earlier, was Big T. Obviously, we all hope he's okay. He's got a broken nose. Whether he'll be even available for Saturday is very highly unlikely. I think it's a 6-day concussion protocol period or something. So I don't think even if he wants to play, he wouldn't be able to. But that looks, he looked very much. He looked hungry. I thought he looked. No, he didn't. It looked back to the time of old. I thought, and again, obviously, you can level the same things, except blah 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 blah. But he looked sharp. He was holding the ball up well. There was one instance where I think Sangare picks him out again. He just pinned his defender like it was nothing and just laid it off, cushioned it gently. And it was just really, really nice to see him just do, it's just so unfortunate that he got injured. But how do you think he played?
Well, he certainly had the right attitude, which I think some players, like you said earlier, Christian, were very complacent because I thought he put himself about. Like you said, physicality, trying to pin their defenders. He was obviously trying to pull them with his runs, and he scored a very good goal. And he actually, something we didn't touch on. I mean, what a save it was from Whitworth! That one to the bottom corner, that was a superb save. I mean, he connected with that. He couldn't have done anything more there as a striker. I mean, I'm sure Ian Wright in the studio would have said, "Well, what can you do about that? You've done everything right," and their keeper's pulled out a worldy save. So, yeah, shame about obviously the collision. I mean, there was a lot of vitriol in the away end towards a goalkeeper. I thought it was an honest challenge personally. I just saw that as two players going for the ball, and I think they both clattered one another. I think I've seen a few fans saying their keeper punched him, and that's just an honest challenge for me. There's not much in that. And yeah, it was actually quite borderline upsetting, really, because he was, flailing his limb. I know it panned away on the telly, but he was flailing his limbs about, and he was in a bad way for like 10 minutes. He was flat out, and there was obviously all our physios round him, the St John's ambulance round him, the Exeter physios, and in the end, I think about 8 people stretching him off. And you're thinking, bloody hell, this isn't good. And then 5 minutes later, he's walking across the away end in a blood-soaked Forest shirt and putting his hand up to everybody. Like, just reminded me of like the on The Simpsons, Christian, when is it Lance Murdoch does the motorbike thing, and he's like flat out, and he's like, he's all right, folks. So yeah, I'd imagine with the protocols nowadays, and they're here for a reason, that he probably will miss Saturday. Hopefully he'll be back for Newcastle, which I'm sure he would. Looking at him, a broken nose, he obviously can wear the cheek masks and that, don't you now? So yeah, it was. I couldn't fault his attitude, because it would have been easy last night, as some of the players did at times, just to kind of think, well, we'll rock up here and we'll win. And he didn't have that. So, yeah, it's good to see. It's just when Tyro gives you that little glimmer of hope that he's kind of back, the next game he plays, it's like it evaporates again. So it's just, I guess, when he's getting odd minutes and that, I guess it's hard to get some consistency, but hopefully it can be. Yeah, he's going to be an understudy to Wood for the rest of the season, isn't he? But the moments he does get, I'm just hoping he can obviously help us out, really.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, if he plays anything like his compatriot mate Osimhen when he had that bloody mask on at Napoli, we'll be in for a treat. He'll be catching up with Wood from no time off the bench.
Yeah,
but
next season.
Yeah, but no, it goes without saying we all wished about best for him and hope he comes back soon. Yeah, it was pretty nice. I think if anyone's down for 10 minutes, it's never nice. Yeah, I think you're spot on as well. There was no man. Both players, both the goalkeeper and Tyler, just had their eyes on the ball. It was just an unfortunate collision. It happens. It's just one of those things. It's contact sport after all. The main thing is that he's okay. That's all you can do from it, really. I did also think those comments were a bit silly towards the Exeter team or whatever else, but yeah, he's all right, and long may that continue. But I suppose...
Hey, just thinking. I wonder if you'll know if his match-worn shirt's authentic, because it'll be covered in blood, won't it? The ones that are being auctioned off.
I guess it will be, yeah. And like Gibbs White, some excellent centre backs by the house at the minute. Yeah. Dear me. But I suppose one person who could have potentially made a claim to be Wood's understudy, at least in the immediate short term, would have been J Silva in a more central role. But Lee last night, I mean, he was a disgrace. I'm sorry, he was. I think I can deal with players playing badly. I can deal with players making mistakes. Look at Miguel, for example. We've all said he's at fault for the first goal. He plays against Ipswich, so all right, so what? Just let him try and get bounced back from it. Players make mistakes. It's a human sport. They'll miss chances. They'll misplace passes. They'll take too long on the ball. Whatever else. What I can't get over, what I really struggle to deal with, is when you see players throwing out like terrible Hollyoaks-esque theatricals at the slightest bit of contact when the ball's still there to be won, and the referee just goes, get up. And by that point, they've got the ball, they've recycled it, and they're away. And I must have counted about 10, 15 times yesterday where J Silva did that. Just needlessly dropping to the floor, trying to scam the refs. Like, you're playing a team 2 leagues beneath you. You're playing a team who had 10 men for 40 minutes of that match, and you're still doing it. Grow up. So for me, he's done for me. I honestly, I think even the first one out the door in the summer, for me personally, and that display just nails it on. I know he scored against Brighton. I know Nuno likes to trust him a bit off the bench, but for me, he's finished.
Yeah, I mean, he's not finished yet because he's what we've got till the end of the season. He's going to be back up. But boy, is he back up. Yeah, he was... the thing is about him, we've said it all season. I know I'm not quite sure on based on what you've just said, Christian, I guess I am sure of your verdict on it. But me and Reiss have said this very often this season, that when he gets frustrated that he doesn't get a foul, you can guarantee that 10 seconds later he gives a foul away. And that's really poor. He's got that. You accept that for the first month or two that he's here. He's getting used to things. He's getting used to different refs, different game situations. Last night he was awful. He was absolutely dreadful. I'll be honest with you. I mean, I pleaded and pleaded with Nuno on this podcast not to drop Elanga earlier in the season because I felt there was something in there. We've seen that there's something in there with him. I've never seen it with Jota. I've never seen it. I think what I've seen that I like about him is when he's come off the bench. So why do you need to change that element of him? I just think when he starts, he's never offered anywhere near enough when he started a game for us at this level. I just don't. Last night just proved it to me. We're playing a League One side, and like we've already said, you've got to analyse the situation. For the attacking players, it was a chance to really get some confidence up. And this is a player who's just scored his first Premier League goal, let's not forget as well. His confidence should have been sky high, and he was all over the place. I don't know if it was the pitch, the environment he found himself in. But yeah, it's just really erratic, just really, really poor. I just don't think he offered us anywhere near enough than he needed to. I don't disagree either. I don't think he'll be with us next year. I think, the obvious link is going to be the Olympiacos move, isn't it? I suppose. But we paid 10 million for him. Well, near or thereabouts. So, for PSR, we're going to want to recoup most of that, if not all of it, I guess. So, difficult situation. But yeah, I've never seen it. I don't want that to sound like a smug "I told you so" sort of thing, but I've just never really got it with him. Like I say, I like him as an impact sub. I think there's certain, like we've said before, horses for courses. There's certain situations where he's a decent player to throw on, but starting games, he's just not good enough at this level. And I think we have seen enough now to kind of say that is pretty accurate, I guess.
The biggest positive what's come of it is that when Jota got that little spell in the team, it's actually changed Elanga's season, hasn't it?
Yeah, true.
I'm not going to be as harsh as you two guys. He was really poor last night. The one moment he had where he did really well was take the ball off that player, and he got himself into a brilliant shooting position, and he just went back to type and just smashed it so hard when he just needed that composure. He's going to be, like Lee said, he's part of the squad, and he's going to have an impact this season because this is what now the squad we've got for the rest of the season. But what frustrates me about Jota is when he actually has got his head on for the game, he's all right. He's decent and he can offer an impact. It's just when he gets in his head, I think, I'll give you two examples here. The Ipswich game where he got his first start, first thing he did was run. I think it was Leif Davis who would have been playing left back that day. He ran him down the line. I think he won an early corner, and you're thinking, right, this is what you're going to get out of him today. You're going to get at least a threat. But the other example I'm going to use is Bournemouth away. Within a minute, he chucked himself on the floor. Milos Kerkez did not touch him, and the ref brought it. And Kerkez just stood there and I just thought, this is a game we're going to get today. He's against a really good left back in Kerkez, in form. He's just going to moan. He's just going to chuck himself on the floor, and that's when he becomes a passenger. And last night, I'm sure Nuno would have told them all it's going to be physical against this type of team. It's not the best pitch, and the left back, like you said, was brushing him, Christian. He just throwing himself on the floor. And I know he's our player, but any player who does that, chucking himself. We see it with our fans who slag Bruno Fernandes off all the time, who does it. So you've got to call it out when it's your own players run. It's just really frustrating because he has shown in glimpses that he can cause a threat. It's just when he goes to that type of player where he's just chucking himself on the floor and moaning at the officials, that's when he's worthless to us. So hopefully he can get back to how he was against Brighton when he come on. I know he was winning and he did well. It was very frustrating. Yeah,
I think like I was just going to say, I think I've just had a look and he's played in 26 games now. I think to not be quite as harsh, I guess all I expected after someone who's played in 26 games, and take away the first two if you want, because he played a minute in both. He came on in injury time. So 24 games he's featured in, and I just don't see him any further down the path than when I first watched him play. And that's a little bit of a concern, which then in turn goes on to your point, Christian, about whether he'll actually be here next year, I guess.
It was just embarrassing. I think Reiss just hit it on the head with the whole. If you can't call Bruno Fernandes out for doing the same thing just because it's your player who's that's fine. He plays for Forest. It's embarrassing. There's no other way around it. It's embarrassing. And it's embarrassing we do it against a Premier League team, let alone a team you should be absolutely comfortably beating. It's so poor. But anyway, we'll have to see what happens in that front. Because obviously, Nuno obviously sees something in him. Obviously, as you said, he wouldn't be played 26 times if he hadn't.
He played the whole game, didn't he, last night? He didn't.
Yeah,
120
minutes,
about 200 minutes. I think it was by the end, wasn't it? Jesus.
Box set, let alone a 90-minute match. But I suppose the other concern I've only picked out one more though. This could have been, as you both said, we had half a dozen players yesterday who underwhelmed. But the one that most concerned me, I touched upon it earlier, was Moreno, because I know it's in terms of his future, that's more clear cut. Obviously, he's on loan. Good chance he goes back or goes to Spain afterwards, Reiss. But Jesus, he was. I know obviously these things can happen over the course of a season where someone's in first choice, they come out of the team, they don't get back in the team because someone else has taken their shirt and kept hold of it. If Williams gets injured, we're in trouble. He's playing like that. I never thought I'd say those words.
Yeah, because you look at the Liverpool performance away, where he marked the best right forward out in the league. You know what I mean? And
I don't know whether
I don't know whether it's because obviously he's lost his place for Williams. Has he become a little bit disillusioned with that? Obviously, the Betis links have resurfaced where, he did actually turn us down in the first season. He stayed with Betis. I think he's actually a long-term player wanted there. So whether that's obviously, his agents might have said, well, they're willing to take you back in the summer for a fee. To be fair, even when he was playing really well, because of his age, I think it was 31, 32. And we look at like how much Villa wanted for Keenan Davis, for example. I wouldn't really want to pay more than, say, at the top 10 million, 10 million back then. And then this is obviously before now when he's now second choice left back. So again, the problem is for us is this squad at the start of the season is more than good enough to be where we thought we'd be, which is mid-table-ish. Obviously now in fighting for the Champions League spots, that's where you're seeing your backups are probably not quite at that level. Your wingers, obviously your fullback options, and that is where in the summer, if we do get into Europe, where you think, right, we look at Nuno will probably write down his preferred lineup on paper, and it's think, right, well, where do you improve that lineup, or where do you think I can get someone with pretty much the same ability in that position for a good cost? And obviously that's where the recruitment team come in. It was heavily linked with Loco, weren't we, in the summer? I know he's had a serious injury. I'm not sure if he's back yet. I know PSG wanted him as well, and they're kind of going down that route, aren't they, signing young French players now, so that might be a done deal kind of thing. But yeah, that is probably an area in the summer where you'd probably have competition now for Nico to strengthen, because Harry Toffolo's probably going to go as well, isn't he? But yeah, I could say probably half a dozen who have done all right for us overall. Moreno being one of them, or decent to all right, and just not quite at that level last night. The one where he got spun, where we mentioned earlier when they had the shot, what just went wide. I thought that was going to be the moment for them, but thankfully not. But thankfully, I know with obviously been a little bit scathing on some aspects, but you have to be honest. Thankfully, we've got through. I think that's the be all and end all, isn't it? And because if not, we would have been up in arms, losing to a League One side with 10 men.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I think obviously I know it's very obvious. It's knockout football, but the most important thing is just get through, find the passage through, and go from there.
It's just like I mentioned earlier. It's obviously for Saturday, I'm just like Fulham have had obviously an empty week. We've had to travel. I know they've flown, but we've had to travel down to Exeter. Would have got back late today. They've probably had a recovery session today. We're then probably going to train tomorrow. So one day's training, and then probably a light session Friday. And then they're going to, I'd imagine, they'd fly down to London, isn't it? And Fulham have kind of had all that week. So it's a lot of logistics and a lot of recovery, and not the most ideal week, because I know obviously we played about 1,000 minutes last night because of the added time. So
still playing out.
I just hope it doesn't affect us come Saturday. But I think it's made a tough game a little bit tougher, personally.
I agree with that. I think also as well, it's having the hindsight sort of say that I think this is the issue. I think someone touched on it on Twitter. I think with Joshua as well. Is that the players? You're right. The players we signed at the time seemed very good players to take us up the league and take us to that 12th, 14th cushion. Whereas now we're competing way beyond that. It's sort of like, okay, actually, maybe we need better, which is that's something for some of the team to address. But it's a good position to be in ultimately. But obviously, we will now look at Saturday's game. And yeah, obviously we have Fulham. There will be a preview pod coming out this week. Adam will be hosting that one, and his prediction for the game is 1-1, which I think I'd probably take if I'm being perfectly honest. But yeah, it's an interesting one because you're right in the sense that the players who didn't play, obviously Alanga, Aina, Milenkovic, Murillo, Morato, even the ones who came on, Williams, Gibbs-White, and Anderson didn't really play, and Woods didn't really play that long. Hudson-Odoi didn't play at all either. So, and obviously Sells was sub too. So I kind of agree with the notion that we probably will go back to a 3 or a 5, whatever we want to call it.
With Morata not playing, I think.
Yeah, my only logic for that being as well is, aside from the obvious of Morata not playing or whatever else, is that I think out of their 6 defeats this season, 2 have been to a pretty dismal Man United team who have beaten them playing 3 at the back. So maybe there genuinely is that is a little weakness in their armour. Maybe there is a system that they struggle against. Who knows? And maybe the knows clock that. But what's your thoughts on the game, guys? Lee, start with you. What you're thinking and score prediction.
Yeah, it's not the ideal away game after losing 5-0 at Bournemouth in your last away game, I suppose, is it, in the Premier League? I think it'll be a good game, to be fair. I think it'll be different to the Bournemouth game. I think if you'd have said to our fans at the start of this season, we're going to have a bit of a Fulham season from last season, I think we'd have taken that kind of flirting with Europe, finishing comfortably top half, maybe bottom of the top of the bottom half, should I say. I think we'd have taken that. So I do see, some of our fans won't like this, but I do see sort of similar situations between the clubs at this level, at this stage of our futures. So yeah, I think it'll be a good game. I think it's a winnable game. But I just think with how yesterday went and the players we had to use to get over the line yesterday, I just think it might be tricky to actually go there and win. So I'm going to agree with Adam. I think it might be, do I go for goals or do I go for a drab 0-0? I'm not going for goals because he'll slaughter me if I say 2-2 again. I'm going to go for a 0-0, just to be different from Adam. I just think it'll be, after the Bournemouth debacle, I think Nuno will want to, much like he did against Brighton, just kind of start from the back and make sure everything's nice and solid. And yeah, I think we'll keep them out. And I look forward to this being on the bloopers when they go and stuff us or something stupid like that. But yeah, I'll go for 0-0. I think it'll be an entertaining 0-0 because I think both sides will have chances. I think it'll be that sort of game.
Yeah, Tom Kenny putting us to the sword again, no doubt. Reiss, what about yourself?
Well, I'd like to hope it won't be as bad as last season's disaster, and there'll be no, permits in bushes this time. To be honest, obviously we're doing the Twitter prediction league, what Dan's done, haven't we? And I've put this down for a draw, which away from home at Fulham, who are a side who are, I know they're at the lower echelons of the race for Europe, but competing for probably Conference League, Europa League, really. At a point would be a solid result on the road, especially because we haven't even scored there the last 2 seasons we've been in the Prem. So my heart says a draw. My head says after last night, I think with the week we've had and the week they've had, they'll beat us. Well, I hope I'm wrong. Of course I do. I just think it might catch up on us, but we shall see. But if we can go there and come away, with a result of any sort, a draw or obviously a win, that'd be, I think that'd be good. And it kind of keeps them at bay until the end of that. Another game down and they're not gaining on anything. I know they're right at the bottom of that, but I'm just thinking about getting into Europe rather than obviously anything else. But I'm just playing about with the system because we've done a little bit. Gordon, I'll put this to you, Christian, with you being the host. So pop this question up as a first time. So What do you guys think to that? Next 4 games, points tally.
Next 4 games. Oh.
12. I've got to go 10. I've just got a draw.
I think, to be honest, how to say this politely, the most positive outlook I can say is that any points gained from these 4 games will put us up on what we had won the first half of the season. So that's positive. Because obviously, if we match what we did first half of the season or better it, then we will finish top 4. We will go Champions League. So, but
yeah, because we've lost them all 4, haven't we?
We lost all 4.
I just realised that. Yeah.
I would like to think at least 4. I'd like to think we'll beat at least one of them, and I can't see us losing 4 again. Surely not. Not 4 in a row. Touch words. Yeah.
I think like I know you obviously got to take one game at a time, but you know Newcastle went up there last year and beat it. Newcastle on the day. Newcastle are an excellent team. You know, Isak's arguably the best striker in the league, along with Haaland. You know, they've got a really good midfield, but they have been susceptible to losing at home. You know, they lost to Bournemouth, who did a job on them. They lost to West Ham, weirdly. So it wouldn't surprise me if we went and got a result up there. And then the 2 home games, I mean, Arsenal have obviously lost Kai Havertz today. So they've really got no real depth. Oh, well, you tell me, but they've not got a lot of depth up front. So that's, you know, hopefully Bukayo Saka will be nowhere near fit for that game because he's a huge miss for them. That link up with Odegaard. So he's probably not going to be here. And Manchester City at the minute, you just don't know what are going to rock up. I mean, they're probably going to go out of the Champions League annoyingly now, but
well, it's only a 1-goal game, isn't it?
I mean, yeah, I can't see them beating Madrid over there. Not with the defence at the minute, but that's for Man City pod. So yeah, we'll have to see. Yeah, like you said, Christian. Hopefully, we can overturn the obviously losses. So
one thing. Not to give a points total as such, but one thing that I would say in response to Gordon's comment is that every time just lately we've seemed to play a team that's around sort of 8th to 11th, and you think, right, if we lose this game, they're going to close the gap. Typically, we've had a good result. We played Villa, and I think they could have closed it to 4, and we won. We played Brighton when they could have closed it to 7, and it's now 13, I think it is. So, yeah, I mean, if we beat Fulham, we can go 14 points clear of them. So all of a sudden, that gap is just, I think it's nice to be in this situation where any points we get in these next 4 games are a bonus rather than kind of thinking, oh, it's a great tally, but we could have done with more. Don't get me wrong. I don't really want to get none. That would set us right back. But I don't know. There's something, to me, there's just something a little bit different about this team this year, it feels. And when we have these games where there's some sort of incentive to put that gap on the league table again, we have been coming up trumps. So that gives me some confidence that we can get some points in these 4 games.
I think in the next 4, for me personally, I think if we used to get 6 points or above, I think that'd be a great return.
Definitely.
Because I know it sounds mad, but we are at home against, you know, we are capable. We're capable on his day of beating any of them. It's just also they're capable of beating us on the day. So this is such a Premier League. But
I think if you offered me 5 now, 5 would mean we've only lost 1 of the 4. And I think that would be a massive return for me. I think 5 points would give us 52 points. What do we say for some sort of Europe? 60-ish, is it? 63? You're then talking 10 more games and you need a handful of points. And that is such a good situation to be in.
I think if we as well come out of these 4 fixtures and at the end of it, we've still got like that 10-point gap on Fulham, I think you'd take that, wouldn't you, as well? So, let's see.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, just looking at a few Fulham stats here, and if you want to look at their last 5 league games at home, they have not won any of them. They've drawn 4 and lost 1. They did beat Watford at home in the cup at the start of January, but their last league win at home came in December on a Thursday night against Brighton, which is a little strange. And then in that run, it's been a bit. Actually, they drew with Arsenal and Bournemouth, which, you know, fair enough. Arsenal especially good result. Also drew with Southampton, Ipswich at home. So, you know, that sort of tells you that while they're not necessarily losing, if they're not beating them at home, you sort of question how and why that is. Obviously, they got spanked by Wolves as well, didn't they? 4-1 at home. So
It's just go up to Newcastle away and turn them over instead.
yeah. So I think I'm going to be a bit more optimistic about the whole team thing because it's assumed that it's going to be say Sales, Aina, Milenkovic, Murillo, Morato, Williams, Gibbs, White, Anderson, Hudson, Odoi, Elanga, and Woods. Most of those players didn't play at all this week. Some didn't even travel. And the others will have played for no more than 40 minutes, really, 40, 50 minutes, which isn't that bad. So I don't know.
Six of them didn't play.
Yeah, I was leaning more towards a draw, but having just seen their recent run of form at home, I'm gonna go for a 2-1 win. I'm gonna be bold, 2-1 win. And this has been the one that starts the revolution, and we all get carried away because Liverpool are going to lose tonight to Everton, and we're all going to think we can hold them down, and then it'll go very, very wrong. But obviously, yeah, we'll up until then point anyway. So Adam will be back in midweek for the preview. Or I think towards the weekend. It's midweek now.
Friday, says yeah.
Yeah, Friday. Yeah. So thank you all for joining. We'll have our review pods on Sunday, I believe. And enjoy being in the 5th round of the FA Cup. Only a couple of games away from Wembley. Who knows what might happen? I think for that the reference that Cape Nosset and Function gave earlier, I believe, was a replay the year that we won the cup last against a lower league team. So who knows? Maybe it's an omen after all. But enjoy the rest of your week. Look forward to the Fulham game. Good safe travels to all those are going. And yeah, come on, you Reds.